Welcome to the Daily Bollocks. Stop the endless conservative chaos. That was the grand campaign promise in 2024. We were promised a government of service, a government that claimed it would tread more lightly on your lives. We were told the adults were back in the room. Instead, fast forward just 18 months later, and we're watching an administration staggering like a punch-drunk boxer. We're witnessing a government stumbling blindly from one preventable crisis to the very next, entirely devoid of a plan and utterly consumed by its own dysfunction. Today, we're not looking at spin, we're looking at the facts. We're looking at the hard data. We're looking at the undeniable, humiliating reality of Keir Starmer's tenure. We begin with Part 1, Scandals, Cronyism and the Lies. The man who stood at the podium and righteously promised to clean up politics is now drowning in his own sleaze. Let's examine the receipts. Within months of taking office, Keir Starmer was caught accepting over £20,000 worth of freebies and gifts. While millions struggled with the cost of living, Starmer accepted £2,800 for Taylor Swift tickets from Universal Music Group. He took £1,939 for arena racing Doncaster tickets. He accepted £839 to cover headline lead designer clothes and makeup for his wife. And how did he respond when caught with his back against the wall? He paid back a mere £6,000. Meanwhile, his precious VIP Arsenal seats were kept, conveniently justified for security reasons. He proved that he operates by one rule for the political elite and another for the working public. But the freebies are nothing compared to the Mandelson Betrayal. Starmer pushed through the appointment of his party loyalist, Peter Mandelson, to the coveted post of US Ambassador. There was just one massive problem. United Kingdom security vetting explicitly denied his clearance. Why? Because a due diligence report revealed that he remained on the board of Systema, a Kremlin-linked defence company, long after Vladimir Putin's first invasion of Ukraine in 2014. Despite the official UKSV denial, number 10 Downing Street put constant, relentless pressure on civil servants to bypass national security. The Prime Minister's office didn't just ask them to process it quickly, they aggressively demanded that officials just get it done, dismissing the profound security risks entirely. To cover up this cronyism, Starmer engaged in the unprecedented gaslighting of Parliament. He stood at the dispatch box in the House of Commons on 3 separate occasions and confidently stated that full due process was followed. It was a complete fabrication. The reality, Sir Olly Robbins, the top civil servant at the Foreign Office, was sacked by the Prime Minister simply for doing his job, upholding the Civil Service Code and bravely raising these security risks. The resulting fallout triggered an absolute psychodrama inside Downing Street, leading to both the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, and his Director of Communications, Tim Allen, resigning in the exact same week. Ultimately, Starmer was forced into a humiliating retreat, addressing Parliament to admit he provided misleading information. He sacrificed a dedicated civil servant to protect a Kremlin-linked crony. Moving on to Part 2, the jellyfish of British politics. The Spectator magazine summarised his leadership perfectly, calling Keir Starmer transparent, spineless and swept along by any incoming tide. Let's look at the Manifesto Matrix, promise versus reality. He looked the public in the eye and promised no tax hikes on working people. The reality, his government's first two budgets jacked up taxes by 36 billion and 26 billion pounds, pushing the overall tax burden to a historic suffocating high of 38.3% of GDP. He promised to protect the vulnerable. The reality, he broke faith with 10 million pensioners, snatching away their winter fuel payments and citing a £22 billion black hole, only to desperately U-turn less than a year later when the political heat became too much. He promised to support rural Britain. The reality, he imposed a devastating, uncosted family farm tax, sparking massive outrage before being forced into an inevitable watering down after a grueling 14-month campaign by working farmers. This brings us to the anatomy of a Labour policy U-turn. It is a predictable four-step cycle of incompetence. Step 1, announce a half-baked, uncosted policy. Step 2, encounter massive, predictable backlash from the public and experts. Step 3, panic, dig in and gaslight the public. Just look at the grooming gangs inquiry. When campaigners, spurred on by Elon Musk and Conservative MPs, begged for a national inquiry, Starmer accused them of jumping on a bandwagon of the far right. But then comes step 4, the total humiliating U-turn. After Starmer's own internal audit by Louise Casey demanded the inquiry, he was forced to announce it anyway, proving his initial gaslighting was purely political reflex. The sheer telly of out-of-control momentum is staggering. The grooming gangs inquiry, the winter fuel payment cuts, the attempt to cut welfare which he abandoned after 120 of his own Labour MPs rebelled, the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap, passing a £14 billion cost onto taxpayers, the inheritance tax on farmers, the crippling business rate hikes for pubs, the mandatory digital ID plan. They even shamefully attempted to cancel local democratic elections across 30 areas, a deeply authoritarian plot that they were forced to abandon after just 25 days. Every single one of these policies resulted in a chaotic, embarrassing U-turn. Finally, we arrive at part 3, the border collapse. This is perhaps the most damning failure of all. Starmer campaigned on a firm promise to smash the gangs. Instead, on day 1 in office, he scrapped the Rwanda deterrent without any alternative plan in place. As Tony Smith, the former head of Border Force, stated, Starmer set about abolishing the deterrent the moment he became Prime Minister, and now he's paying the price. The result of this action is a total vacuum in border enforcement strategy. He essentially threw open the border, rolled out the welcome mat and invited the human trafficking gangs to drastically surge their operations. The data does not lie. This has given Keir Starmer the absolute worst border record of any Prime Minister in British history. Let's look at the numbers side by side. Boris Johnson saw 65,811 crossings over 1,140 days in office. That's an average of 404 arrivals per week. Keir Starmer hit 65,922 crossings in just 582 days. That's a staggering average of 790 illegal arrivals every single week. The crossings have nearly doubled in speed under his watch. This represents a catastrophic 42% surge in illegal arrivals since the election. We're looking at nearly 66,000 illegal migrants packed into just 1,114 small boats. Because there's no deterrent, the gangs have become bolder. There's now an average of 59 migrants crammed into each single boat, up from 26 under previous tenures. This makes the crossings deadlier for the passengers and infinitely more profitable for the criminal gangs Starmer promised to smash. Even his own Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, had to admit to Parliament that there's no guarantee these numbers will fall next year. This is the Starmer legacy. A record defined by unprecedented illegal migration, billions in wasted taxpayers' money, endless policy retreats, and a willingness to compromise national security for the sake of his cronies. 18 months in, the data proves one thing. The adults aren't in the room is completely empty. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and comment. See you next time.